at 6 p.m. Sorry about that. Usually I have it on. Uh, Roll call, Vice Mayor Hunsetter,
Here.
Councilmember Babbitt Pierce,
Present.
Councilmember O'Neill,
Here.
Councilmember Jones,
Present.
and please note Mayor Prudhomme Bauer is here. We have a quorum. Item 3 on the agenda is public comment. The town council invites the public to provide comments at this time. Members of the town council may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration or decision at a later date. If you're interested in making comments on a specific agenda item, we ask that you complete a brief form or indicate when that item is before us, that you want to speak. And if you fill out the form, submit it to the clerk, at any time during the meeting. Each speaker will be limiting their comments to 5 minutes. So is there anybody wishing to speak at public comment? I don't see anybody coming up to the podium, and there's nobody online, so we will move on. Before we go any further in the agenda, I just want to know we have a little change in the agenda. We were just notified that the representative from SHPO is not going to be here tonight, so I'd like to pull item 7A off the agenda for us to do at a different time when she can be here. Okay. Okay. So that's the preservation award is being pulled off of the agenda. Okay, let's go on to, which is the fun part, which is staff introductions. I'd like to welcome Officer Darren Ehrenberg and Ashley Beal, both from to the police department. Come on up, both of you, for your official swearing in, and welcome to Clarkdale.
I just, it's becoming more and more difficult to recruit police officers. And so I am very excited to introduce Darren as our newest officer. He was previously a lieutenant without. Good. So to get that level of experience in our community is just really exciting. So welcome to the team. You ready for your oath? You want to stand right here? Oh. I state your name.
I, Darren Ehrenberg,
Solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States of America
do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States of America.
and the laws of the state of Arizona. I pledge to follow the regulations
I pledge to follow the regulations,
and directives of the town of Clarkdale.
directives and the laws of the town.
You're okay. And the Clarkdale Police Department. I pledge to support and implement
I pledge to support and implement
the mission of the department
the mission of the department
and act within the values of the department.
and act within the values of the department.
I pledge to faithfully perform
I pledge to faithfully perform
the duties of the office of police
the
officer.
duties of the office of police officer.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, to the team.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to Clarkdale.
Sure, we'll have you sign it.
Okay, Ashley, your turn.
So Ashley, I got to actually participate in the interview process, so I was really excited. And I think he's gonna get a little cocky going forward. Now, is that an allowed word? That's. We've been having problems all day with wrong words. So many of you know that the police chief has a PhD, Dr. Chief, we call him. Well, our second PhD is now joining the team. So We're very
Dr.
proud.
Ashley?
Dr. Ash. So very excited to have her on board. She is going to be taking Jen Julian's place. So she's doing training this. Ready? Yes. Okay, raise your right hand. I state your name. I, Ashley Gilbert. Solemnly swear. The laws of the state of Arizona. And the laws of the state of Arizona. I pledge to follow the regulations. I pledge to follow the regulations. And directives. And directives. Of the town of Clarkdale and the Clarkdale Police Department. Of the town of Clarkdale and the Clarkdale Police Department. I pledge to support. I pledge to support. And implement the mission of the department. And implement the mission. And act within the values of the department. And act within the values of the department. I pledge to faithfully perform. I pledge to faithfully perform the duties of the office. The duties of the office. Of administrative supervisor. Of administrative supervisor. So help me God. So help you. Congratulations. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome aboard, Ashley. And for those who don't know, she had her first big event. Or like in her first couple of days on the job was National Night Out. And I hear she had a really good time with that. So. Okay. Oh, there's treats in the back, I understand. And you're welcome to have a treat during the meeting too. Thank you so much. And again, it's always a pleasure to have new staff come to our council meeting. We get a chance to officially meet them. And as I say, we'll see you on the streets. So let's move on to reports, current events. In the packet was a brief summary of current events of the council members over the last month. They have been submitted electronically. So if you're interested in the public, you can see them in our link packet on our website. Let's move on to 5B, organizational reports, VVTPO, Verde Valley Transportation Planning Organization.
We meet this week.
Okay. NACOG, Northern Arizona Council of Governments.
Next meeting will be August 28th. They've pushed it out because of the league conference.
And it's going to be here, right?
No, that's October.
It's in October. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. NAMWA, Northern Arizona Municipal Water Users Association.
We did have a meeting 2 Fridays ago. The biggest, of course, we had a successful conference and all that good stuff. But the biggest thing to me was that Cottonwood is considering not continuing as a member of NAMWA.
Who is?
Cottonwood.
Cottonwood.
Yeah. But since I've been there, Cottonwood has sent representatives to 2 meetings, and I've been there for 5 years. So I can understand that they didn't get anything out of it. However, I think that we do, because I think that we develop relationships with people that can help us, specifically with grants. And that's for all of our committees. And I appreciate everybody's work on everybody committee a lot for that reason. So that was about it.
Okay, thank you. Interesting. TPAC, Transportation Policy Advisory Council.
We meet Thursday.
Verde Front Leadership Council met almost 2 weeks ago. The Leadership Council is basically sort of the coordinating body for all the activities under Verde Front. So we reviewed our financials, including the cost of facilitation, because their costs are going up, and we need to just keep those amounts in line. I think our dues to Verde Front is about what, $1,600? About $1,600. We had updates from each of the working groups, a presentation from Chino Valley and Arizona State Parks on the Upper Verde headwaters and the Del Rio Springs Ranch Conservation, which is really quite exciting and interesting. The interesting part of that for me is that the state acquires these lands and stuff. but they don't have operational budgets to take care of them. And that was like, how does this happen then? So everybody's struggling with how to do right by all of those state parks that come on, that are being added. And they are, as we know, there was one in Camp Verde added 2 years ago, and then this one. And it's trying to figure out how they're going to take care of it is a struggle because they have no additional dollars necessarily given to them to manage it. So that's, but it's a cool area. It is the headwaters of the Upper Verde. And then, of course, we heard reports from municipality agencies and other partners. So that was a brief look on that. Sustaining Flows Committee.
We meet on the 25th.
Okay,
We meet on the 25th.
gotcha. Yavapai Communities for Young Children.
We meet on the 28th.
Gosh, big days. Vulnerable Road Users, SHSP Emphasis Area Team.
We do not currently have our next meeting planned.
Okay. Okay, and NACOG Community Action Board
We meet on the 14th.
on the 14th. Thank you. Okay, that's all of our organizational reports. Let's move on to consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine in nature. Tonight, we have 2 items on consent. The first one is approval of the minutes of our July 8th and July 22nd. And the second item on consent is an intergovernmental agreement for regional emergency operations management and disaster services between Yavapai County and the town of Clarkdale. Do any of you want to pull either one of these items off for discussion? Okay. Seeing no one wanting to remove anything, I'll take a motion to approve these 2 consent agenda items.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve consent agenda items A and B as written.
There a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce to approve the consent agenda items A and B as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, motion carried. Okay, let's move on to item 7B, which is the National Opioid Settlement. This is to discuss, consider, and act upon a request to participate in the Purdue Estate Direct Settlement as part of the National Opioid Settlement. Town Manager Guthrie will speak to this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As I've shared with you, we have very limited information about this particular settlement. If you recall, there's always this multi-step process. The very first step is we get contacted and just ask, do you want to participate? And so there's not any information about how much we would receive or what the process will be. So that's where we're at right now is if you vote positively, we will sign the document, return it to them saying we would like to participate. Then the next step is normally some kind of settlement agreement that we would sign. So I recommend that we sign it. We've been able to utilize the other opioid funds that we've received in a pretty good manner. I believe we've bought a pop-up tent for outreach events. We bought the dunk tank for kind of engagement with youth to start those conversations. We did the windshield for the Polaris. We did the drone program. So we've been able to use it for a lot of things that help us engage with the community and particularly kids. So I do recommend that we proceed just to add to that revenue.
Is there any questions about this? Yes, Lisa.
What is the potential downside do you see?
Thus far, I haven't really seen any. I know that some communities are choosing to not administer their funds themselves. They're receiving their share, but then donating them to PANT. And we did consider that. The chief and I talked a lot about that. And I think at some point council discussed it. But thus far, we've been able to put it to good use. And we'll see. We just submitted our annual report. And if there's a lot of administrative hoops to go through, then we may change our mind and say, let's just give it to Pant. But thus far, I feel like it's been a pretty simple process. The guidelines are pretty clear. And so I like receiving these monies because it allows us to do some value added things that we wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to do.
Does Chief wish to make any comments on this? You got to come up here, my friend.
Microphone.
Turn the mic on.
No.
Okay.
I think town manager did a good job of it, but I think it's been an excellent resource for us. And the only other thing that might be a downfall, and I think she already covered that, is that if for some reason we did something wrong in the accounting, and I think that our finance directors, our finance people have been on top of that all the way. And so I just don't see anything. And Pant gets money from the county anyway. So if we were taking money from Pant, then it'd be a different story, but we're not. Pant is getting funded through the same program, so.
I think that was our discussion early on of why we wanted to administer this ourselves and not give it to Penn, because we weren't harming them in any way by not giving it to them.
And I happen to know the chairman of Pant very well, and I think it's just fine. That's me.
Okay, any questions or comments to Chief? Okay, thank you for coming up and speaking.
Thank you.
If there's any other questions for Town Manager Guthrie? If not, I'll take a motion.
I think this is a worthy cause, so I recommend that we direct the town manager to sign all documents necessary to join in the Purdue Estate opioid settlement.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember Jones to approve the participation in the Purdue Estate opioid settlement and authorize the town manager to execute all documents. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you so much. Okay, let's move on to item 7C, which is rejection of grant of easement of trails in Mountain Gate subdivision. This is to discuss, consider, and act upon a rejection of easement for the easements recorded by the Mountain Gate HOA and Mountain Gate Clarkdale LLC. And Assistant Town Manager Ruth Mayday will speak to this topic. Welcome, Ruth.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you. Before you, we have a discussion and action to record a document because we can't, once things are recorded, we can't unrecord them, but we can record over the top of them. So that's what this document will do, is record over the individually listed documents that were recorded by the HOA that dedicate trails to the town of Clarkdale that are in the Mountain Gate subdivision. So there's a couple of reasons that we are rejecting this donation. First of all, there is a lot of ambiguity in the language of the development agreement and the plat. The plat is rather clear, the development agreement is not. And so that it's a clashing of documents, and the plat supersedes the development agreement. So in that development, in the plat, it talks about these trails being dedicated specifically to the residents and their invitees to use these trails. It doesn't say anything about the public using them. It also ties the trail agreement between the town and the CC&Rs, the covenants, codes, and restrictions. And those can be amended. So we can't have an agreement based on a document that can be amended, that we have no say over how it gets amended. So that's the second reason we want to not do this. The third reason is the trails were not designed entirely the way that they were drawn out on the map. Charity, can you bring that slide up? So as you can see here, we have the The orange lines are the Exhibit E that was attached to the development agreement showing where they were supposed to go. The turquoise lines are the ones that were not built. And then the orange lines, I'm sorry, the pink line shows what was built instead. So some of the trails weren't built, and frankly, they will never be built because the topography of these wash and draw areas is such that no one could climb in or out. Or you can get in, but you won't get out unless you turn around and walk back. There aren't any trailheads designated for any of these, so any parking from non-residents that want to hike the trails is going to be on the streets of Mountain Gate. There's just a host of reasons that we really don't want them, the least of which is we really don't have the staff to maintain them. That's our biggest issue, is that it will be just continually running out there and picking up trash and cutting weeds and those sorts of things. And we have all we can do on our plate now to maintain the parks that we already have. So for these reasons, we're coming to you to discuss this idea of rejecting these deeds that they recorded in after we said, please don't record these. And they did it anyhow. So now we have to take this action, like I said, to literally undo what they've done. So we're just saying to them, thanks, but no thanks. We're not taking them. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Any questions for Ruth on this?
So to record over them
Mhm.
required what kind of effort on the part of the town?
Well, we had to chase all of those recorded documents down, which Virginia found all of those. Then we had to get the document together. We had to pay the attorney to review the new language, make sure all of the recorded documents were correct. So we're in this for about $2,000 in legal fees already. Plus staff time. And we're not done. We still have to, if you decide to approve this document, then we still have to have it recorded. So.
Through that process. Yeah. Other questions, Marnie?
Not a question, more of a statement. After looking at the plat, it seems clear to me that the intention was never for these to be open to the community. And I can't imagine why we as a town would maintain something that is not open to everyone.
Exactly. Well, that's the, like I said, there's really no public access to them. So the general public really has no way to use them. There's no trailhead, so you can't park anywhere. So it's just parking on the streets of Mountain Gate and then hiking the trails. So you're absolutely correct.
Yeah. Other comments, questions?
It's my understanding too that in Mountain Gate, they discourage people from coming in and parking on the streets anyway. And I think that there's citations issued or something like that. So I'm in favor of rejecting this gift on the grounds that our taxpayer money and intentions and care should be given to all constituents of our town, not just a few people within a neighborhood. And doesn't sound like it's a match for us. So that's my position.
Yeah. Laura, as a realtor, I am perplexed how the county lets one side of an agreement, one party in the agreement sign anything and submit it for approval and for recording. Like that
Funny you
there's
should
no,
ask.
there's no meeting of the minds. In the real estate world, there's a concept called meeting of the minds, which in most places, a buyer and a seller, they have a meeting of the minds, they agree, and they all have to sign on anything. So that this was accepted by the county, I don't understand, and I won't necessarily get into the county's operations, but or procedures. But I guess for me, the question is, how do we, or can we prevent this from happening in the future? Because it seems like, is there a way just to, like, if we're doing development agreements and there's ever any conversation that the town may take over any kind of thing, that has to be done in writing Like that it says in the agreement that this has to be done in writing, mutually agreed upon before it is recorded, before the gift is accepted, before like something like that, because that seems like a very misstep. And they just maybe missed something that's in our documents that I didn't notice.
It
But-
does say in the document that it's upon the town's acceptance.
That's in the development agreement, correct?
The development agreement. However, I think it's a great suggestion that moving forward that we say, and you must have us sign the document before you record it. I mean, I think for most of us, that's a given. And I mean, I've been doing this a long time and I have never seen this happen before. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's something that you would think you need to say, but clearly we do.
Clearly
And
we
so,
do.
yeah, and who knew that the county would record a one-sided document? It is perplexing, but we did have our attorney work with their offices, and that is the truth. If it's in the right form, they'll record it. So
They have to record it,
yeah,
yes.
exactly. So I do think though that moving forward, the development agreement could say explicitly that we must sign off, not just we must accept it.
Mhm.
So
But
we
it
can
must
be
be
a little
signed.
more expansive
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
Or, and approved by or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
So it goes through, so we make
Yeah.
sure it goes through whatever process it goes through and it doesn't just wind up over in the county without us even knowing it was there.
Right, and I think the language would be, it's super simple, that they must be accepted by council prior to recordation of any documents.
Yeah.
Any other comments or statements, questions? Do we want to open up to see if anybody in the audience wants to speak to this? Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak to this item? I'm just doing it because it is a big deal. So seeing nobody come up, why don't we just go forward? Yeah, you know, I think all intentions were good at one point, but it just never was with the change in ownership and changes of the development agreement over the years and stuff. This just didn't get the attention it should have gotten probably. But I am just like Laura, perplexed as to how this happened, because this is costing us not just $2,000, but we spent money ahead of that. And it's actually, if you look at some of the numbers we've seen, we're up to like $4,500, $4,700 already. Plus staff time in trying to figure all of this out. So this is a mistake. Yeah, we have to do what we have to do to make it, to reject this, which I do agree we need to do. But how do we prevent this from happening again, maybe in another situation? So I think it's the clarity of when these gifts are wanting to be given to us or turn over in these development agreements. We just have to be real clear about having it in writing. I agree with Laura on that one. I think that's an excellent suggestion to make sure we have that in all those agreements. So the intentions were good, but we just cannot take on this, and it wouldn't be to our benefit. It's not like any one of us could go walk any of these trails. So if there are no other statements or comments or questions, I'll take a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move that the council approve the rejection of easement for the easements recorded by the Mountain Gate HOA and Mountain Gate Clarkdale LLC, and authorize the mayor and town clerk to execute the documents and direct the town clerk to record said documents immediately upon full execution.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Hey, it's been moved by Councilmember Jones and second by Councilmember O'Neill to approve the rejection of easement for the easements recorded by the Mountain Gate HOA and the Mountain Gate Clarkdale LLC, and authorize the mayor and town clerk to execute all documents. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. How are we communicating that to the Mountain Gate HOA?
Well, we've already communicated it with John Lash. I'm sure he shared it with them, but we have a formal letter that has been developed by our attorney that will go to them, just kind of outlining the legal position. And we wanted to wait till you took action to ensure that, you know, that's what you wanted to do. And now we'll proceed with that formal notification.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And on the
Okay.
next item, could I just
Huh?
make a couple comments on the next item before you call Ruth up? Go ahead.
On the next item? Okay. Item 7D, which is update from the 57th legislative first session that just was completed somewheres in the end of June. And this is a presentation, discussion only on basically the new laws that were passed and the implications for us. And Assistant Town Manager Ruth Mayday will speak to this topic as well as Town Manager Guthrie. So, go ahead.
So I just wanted to do a little introduction before Ruth kicks off. At your desk, we provided each of you, and I had previously sent it to you electronically, but I went ahead and put it in paper because I figured you're going to a conference. You have lots of time to peruse this. So this is the new laws report. This is what we get from the League of Arizona Cities of Towns of all the bills that passed that could have impact on the town. So we take that report and then we create this spreadsheet that's also on your desk that looks like this. And thank you, Charity. Charity takes a long time to put all of this in an Excel spreadsheet, linking all the bills so that you're able to click on this and see the entire bill. And then we assign every bill that's passed for the town, for towns, to one of our staff members who thoroughly reviews it. They coordinate with people in their profession. So like for Ruth, there's a whole body of people in the state that deal with housing and community development type of issues. The chief has his network, GFOA people for finance, etc. So they are looking at, does this apply to us? Are we already in compliance? Or do we need to pass an ordinance, a policy, or just some training to ensure we're in compliance with the current law? So tonight, all we're going to look at is a few select bills that are going to apply to our development processes. And because we're in the middle of a code rewrite, and these bills have pretty big implications to our community, I thought it would be nice if Ruth could give a little summary of each of them. And please know, all of this is still unfolding. You know, we're still getting model ordinances from the league. People are issuing challenges to some of these bills. So we're going to monitor it closely, just making sure that we're in compliance by the time the date in each bill states. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ruth.
Now that
you.
we have that, welcome, Ruth.
Right. So before you, you also have a memo that I drafted that kind of highlights the important bills that affect community development having to do with zoning and ordinances and approval processes. So really the first bill is the biggest impact for us, and that would be 2447, the Administrative Review and Self-Certification Program. So I believe it was last year, the legislature passed and the governor signed a bill that permitted municipalities to employ administrative review instead of a public review process for some of these ministerial decisions. And those are the ones that are pretty binary. Either yes, it meets the code, or no, it does not. And so this year they have come back and said, now this language appears to suggest that we have to do this. So we are reviewing the existing statutes that we have. Certainly the subdivision process, the subdivision chapter 12 will undergo quite a bit of work. So we'll design review and some of the other processes that we do. The bill is attached here for your reading pleasure. And what it essentially does is eliminate public process for review and approval of design review, preliminary plats, and plat amendments by the Planning Commission, and council approval of final plats and plat amendments. So those are the things that will now come to staff for review and approval rather than coming to Planning Commission and Town Council. So again, this is a really big change in how things are done. Yes, ma'am.
So does this mean, like for the recent Highlands meetings, that means that we would no longer have those meetings open to the public?
No, what it means, so the zoning process, because that's legislative, was not changed. So the things that are a decision, an actual decision, do we want to change this zoning district? Do we want to issue this conditional use permit? Still have to follow that practice of public notification, public hearing at Planning Commission, and then back to Town Council for a final decision.
But the second thing you did, remember the preliminary plat did come to you all.
Right.
And in the future, that would not have happened.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kirkdale does love its public participation.
I know.
So maybe, and I know there's some discussion still going on around this one in particular. So what incident, when would we have public input into any of this? Could,
Well, I mean, we'll take public input. So basically, if somebody has questions, and this is for any project, if somebody has questions about a project and they want to come in and look at it, we'll talk to them about it. We'll explain what this is. And if they have input, do you think the developer could do this? Do you think they could do that? What about this? What about that? We'll have those conversations. And if there are suggestions, sure, we'll pass them along.
could that be done? And can a presentation be given to like the public body of a planning commission for just a report? If this
That
is-
I don't know if we could, to do a report. I'm
Well,
guessing.
As a way of saying what's in-house and what is happening, not for any decision, but oftentimes we do reports on a number of things. I'm just asking.
Well, I mean, we could certainly do something like a planning commission doing a project update. We have these
Yeah,
plans
yeah.
in for approval. We have these plans in for approval. That we could do, but running it through the public process, we can't.
Yeah, no, I understand
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but how does I guess the big question is, how does the public find out about this?
Yeah.
If we don't have a process of at least update to it to the public, because the next thing that could happen is we just see it come out of the ground.
Right.
I'm just asking, because this is a huge change. I think we need clarity and find ways, whatever the outcome is, that we keep our community informed and by updates, maybe good guidance early on for the commissions to give guidance to make sure that there's a clear understanding of everything. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out here because this is huge. Yeah, Marnie.
How would our commission structure change based on this bill?
It wouldn't really change at all. It wouldn't change the commission structure. As you recall, we redistributed the design review responsibilities to Planning Commission and Historic Preservation Commission for those who decide to join and take advantage of the Historic Preservation Ordinance. So those processes would remain, but they would continue to work on rezonings, text amendments, general plan amendments, those kinds of things. So it really would not eliminate the Planning Commission altogether.
How would it impact the historic preservation issues?
Well, at first they left it out completely, and the historic preservation was going to be subject to staff review. And I think SHPO went, wait a minute. And so there's another bill that went back and accepted historic preservation from this. So the Historic Preservation Commission and the Planning Commission will still hear the historic reviews.
Only in the historic district, in the district. Okay, there's kind of two district, okay.
So do you want me,
In the district that covers the ordinance, they will
Correct.
still have,
right, so
Oh,
right, exactly. So if you have a building that's in the historic downtown but does not opt into the historic preservation district, right? They will be heard by planning commission, just like they are now. And
Okay.
then those that do opt in will go to historic preservation commission rather than planning commission.
I guess for me, this is a lot to take in, and I hope we can maybe next month come back when we understand this better and we have a chance to read through this. I don't feel like I can ask you a lot of really good questions because I haven't had time to review
Yeah.
this.
That's why we chose this format,
Yeah.
because I think we've sent you the laws. We've been kind of talking about it. I thought this is also an opportunity for the public to hear about these changes, but not to take any action.
no.
So yeah, if you know, as you're thinking about it, please feel free to shoot us messages like, hey, check into this, check into that. But again, a lot of this stuff comes out in case law. So, you know, I think there's nothing that, in my opinion, that says we can't communicate. Here's a list of projects that are being brought forward to us, you know, that proactive communication. But I think it would be getting pretty edgy to hold a public presentation about it. But a lot of times the neighborhood meetings,
I was gonna say, there's.
Yeah,
The
there's
developer
ways.
can still host neighborhood meetings.
of course.
Yeah.
Now, you know, whether not every project are they required, we always suggest it, but you know, it depends upon what process they're in. But we will continue to see zoning changes. We'll continue to see planned area developments. We'll continue to see CUPs. Those will all continue to go through the, you know, very similar process that they have been. But there are these other things that, you know, no longer can come before, you know, a body for decision making or public hearings. So it is going to be a big paradigm change, and I've been attending all the IG or intergovernmental meetings just so that I'm hearing from even the big cities how they're going to handle this. So we'll keep you posted on anything we learn. And at the conference, the lead conference, we might hear some things about this as well that might help us.
So the other thing this bill does, like I said, it does include design review, and it requires us to adopt objective standards. So because this has to be adopted by December 31st of this year, I've gone through our existing zoning code and cleaned up the language so it's objective. They're not nearly as developed as they need to be, but we can at least meet that deadline and then work on a much better set of design review objectives that are much clearer in what the expectations are.
And I believe the League of Cities and Towns has already helped start that process with
Yes.
looking at what is an objective standard.
Yes, they've already sent a couple of sample ordinances out, so we've taken a look at those, and that's, like I said, I am going through and kind of cleaning it up so we meet the letter of the law, but this is definitely something that we're not going to be able to completely overhaul before the end of the year. So I'd like to give it a little bit more thought than that.
Yeah. And that gives planning commission, and does that have implications for historic preservation commission also, or just planning?
No, because the historic preservation requirements are pretty much tied to the Secretary of Interior standards.
Gotcha.
So those are pretty objective.
Okay. So it'll give planning commission something to sink their teeth into, to really look at those
Correct.
standards and see what changes they would recommend to make it much more objective and to, thank you. Okay. Continue on.
All right. So the next one I wanted to talk about was SB 15. Oh, I'm sorry. There's another one in between here. 1105, SB 1105. It just adds childcare facility or a facility that provides preschool programs to the 500 500-foot zone of exclusion from dispensaries. So there has to be that 500-foot separation between any dispensary and those uses. There's a list of them, and this year they've added those two.
And that would just amend what our very long ordinance that we have anyhow.
Yep, we're just going to plug language in and done.
Yeah.
The next one is 1529, which is municipal housing and pre-approved design. So we've been reading over this and reading over this. And finally, it dawned on Guthrie and I when we met this morning that when they talk about applicant in here, they're talking about somebody submitting these designs for pre-approval, not people applying for building permits, because it was not at all clear. And it's frankly, it's kind of frightening because we read this stuff all the time. So if I don't understand it, I don't know how anybody else is going to. So basically what this does is it says that the town will provide 3 sets of elevations for 4 different classes of properties so that the plans are available to the public to use. So we've already had, we have our quarterly planning meeting coming up in September, so that we will be getting to do with Cottonwood, the county, Camp Verde, Sedona, and we'll all be sitting down and talking about how to implement this, because it does not make any sense at all for each one of us to go out and hire an architect to design all of these. So we've also talked to the city of Maricopa has also offered to share their designs with us. So we are going to try and use those if we can get a hold of them.
Lisa. Okay. Thank you. Didn't we hear from the county that they have designs available for our residents?
Right, and that was the home of my own project that we adopted. So, for instance, the single-family residential home has to have one at, was it 700 feet, 1,500 feet, and 2,000 square feet. So we have something, I'm pretty sure in the 1,500 square foot range for that, but we don't have anything at 7, and we don't have anything at 2,000. So
Yeah.
The home of my own hits and misses every single one of the categories except multifamily, because I don't think we have one for multifamily.
Or ADUs either. I don't.
No, we do have a couple of the ADUs, but we have to provide 3 sizes. So,
Different elevations as well, and we don't have that either.
yeah, no, we don't have that.
Thank you.
And so this is a way for us to try to get this by working together,
Correct.
because it's very costly if we had to do this ourselves, to go out and get 3 of them drawn
Exactly.
up and get it okayed and go through our process. So I think this is a wise thing to do. At least we had some
Right.
to begin with.
Right. So in this packet, there's a timeline. Britannia put this together and did a really nice job of discussing what's due by which dates, which class plans. So we've got until July to approve the first set of plans, and that will be the single family houses, 800 to 2,000 square feet, or starting at the municipal minimum size and then going up to 2,000 square feet. And then the class 4 plans are the ADUs. I'm pretty sure we have a 600, but we don't have a 200 square foot, and I don't think we have 1,000 square foot either. So then the class 3 plans are the duplex and triplexes. And then the class 4 are multifamily. So those don't have to be adopted to January 1, 2027. So the duplex is one and the triplex is another, but we have a while to get those done. So it's not like we're going to be spending tens of thousands of dollars on designs in year 1. So that's good.
If I read the ADU section, it says a minimum of 3 standard plans. Each plan must be exactly one of the following sizes. So does that mean you have to have a 2, 6, and 1,000, or you have to have one of these and then the other 2 can be other things?
No, one of each.
Yeah, that's enough.
Okay.
That's enough.
Deb?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any opportunity on the ADUs to collaborate or partner with the college? I know they're in the process. I actually saw them last week at the Wine and Wags thing. They have 4 of them out there already built. Maybe they have plans.
My only concern is on that is that, as you know, they're not required to go through any of our plan review processes anywhere. And so, the beauty of going through collaboration with other cities is they have been plan reviewed. We know they had to go through that process. So with the college, they may, but they don't have to go through that process. So just knowing that they've been reviewed prior and approved, that's a huge step forward. So we don't have to pay for that to happen.
We also have the developer who's doing our own tiny homes here that have been approved. We might,
It's manufactured.
not necessarily,
No.
but we'll see.
Check.
Yeah, check with him and see. And that might be because we've approved them, they might work.
Well,
I'm
they
just
probably,
saying.
it could be adapted for a site built
Yeah, so.
with some changes. But, so that's that program. The final bill is the licensing timeframes, compliance, and so forth. So the legislature went through and set out all of these processes, and you have to have all these deadlines, and they made a big deal about it. This was 10 years ago. And it's not really the big deal like it sounds like, because we get to pick the times, the deadlines. So we have to, right. So instead of them telling us you have 15 days to do this, okay, well, you have to adopt a timeline for this approval and this approval. And then you have to do a completeness review, and then you have to do a technical review or a substantive review. So this bill, they're always tweaking that language in that bill, in that section of ARS. So this year's changes requirement municipalities to meet or discuss requested corrections and provide sufficient guidance to allow the applicant to provide responsive corrections. So this is something that we regularly do already. We cannot deny a residential permit unless it considers an application withdrawn based on their lack of response to requests for corrections, or notified the applicant within 15 days of submittal that the application in essence is so bad and so rife with deficiencies that we would deny it and they have to come back and start all over. So when they first adopted this bill, it did not apply to residential or master plan communities or subdivisions or things like that. Well, they took all that language out. So now this process, it also applies to master plan communities, to single family residential. So it's just really, what we'll be doing is just basically codifying our review process. We have to provide it online. We have to say, if you're going to apply for a single family residential permit, it takes X number of days. If you're going to apply for a commercial permit, it takes X number of days. If you're going to apply for subdivision, this part takes this much time, this part takes that much time. So that's the crux of what this is. We just decide. So right now, when somebody comes and applies for a building permit, Bob is really good about turning those around. He, by and large, gets them done in a week. But we tell them, okay, you get 2 weeks, it'll be 10 business days, and we should have this done. So in that instance here, we're just going to say 30 days. Because if Bob goes on vacation, that's going to delay things. He's the only one that we can get to review them. So there's what we know we can get it done in, and then there's what we're going to tell them we can get it done in so that we're not in violation, because if we are, they're deemed approved.
Yeah. I understand the reason they did. I wasn't happy with it, but is because they felt there was too much time deliberate, that municipalities were taking too much time to get projects through. Now, I look at Clarkdale and I think we do a really good job sometimes with master plan communities and subdivisions. Those are much more complicated and they take time and then, all of that. But it puts us all now on a time clock.
Right,
And that means on both sides.
right.
Right,
exactly.
On both sides. So I understand that. I'm not sure it's going to meet the intent they said it was going to meet, but we'll see.
I think that that was targeted at some of the larger communities
course
way
it
south
was.
of us.
Yes, of
But-
course it was.
Of course, we're just an innocent bystander. And we got hit too. So again, I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have about these changes.
No, I just think the first one is going to be the most difficult for us to work through and provide some way of notifying the public what's going on and having any public discussion. This is really hard because well, we'll see. I mean, communities want to just have the opportunity to weigh in on projects. And this basically just took that away from. Any other comments for Ruth? Or so this one, any way that we can find ways to embrace our community and find ways to engage them however best we can, but at least reporting to them what's going on.
Well, there's nothing in here yet that prevents us from putting them on the town website, which is what we've done in the past with some of these big impactful projects. They haven't taken that away yet. So that's one, excuse me, one avenue, the weekly reports, the planning commission meetings, those kinds of things. I can stand up there and say, here, we have a plat in for this. We have, a gas station. We have a fast food restaurant. Just, pick your project that's coming in and, there you have it. So people will find out. And in a small town like this, most people find out.
I know, but it's still not.
It's frustrating.
It's
Yes.
very
That's
frustrating.
Yeah.
It's very
Okay.
frustrating.
Thank you. And again, like Guthrie said, shoot her any questions you have and we'll see what we can do to get them answered or look into it further. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you
Thank you,
so
Ruth.
much, Ruth.
I guess I just want to comment
Yeah.
for the record on how impactful to our day-to-day operations the new laws that get passed every year are.
Oh,
Not just for Ruth, but for PD, for charity, for, across the organization, the time that it takes for us to go through our records to make sure that we're complying. And I just want to say thank you to all of you because I'm sitting here looking at this list. This is a lot of changes. And it really just, must interrupt the day-to-day work that you're doing. And all of a sudden you're here. And that you always talk about how Texas only met every other year.
Right.
And so that this happens every year here. That's
Yeah, because really,
substantial.
when you think about it, like this one that's so, tough, it goes into effect December 31st. Well, it's only a few weeks after that the legislature convenes. So we're trying to implement that whole huge list while we're trying to watch what they're doing for the next session. And, we're very active in testifying and writing letters and giving our feedback to legislators about the unintended consequences. Like we knew you're trying to speed up development to make more housing, but we also know that, hey, our constituents want input. They want a public process. So we're trying really hard to advocate on behalf of what we know our residents want. But in this case, all of us, all the cities, the league, everybody advocated against this and we just lost out. And now, we're having to try and figure it out, but the sessions start overlapping. We're still trying to implement what happened this session and the next session starts. So it is a lot. And I mean, the team does a great job in this process that we use of having the matrix and making sure that we're assigning people to actually put eyes on every single bill. And then the ones that are tough, we're getting legal help. We're getting help from the league of how are we doing this? Some of them, pretty cut and dry, but some of them aren't.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with what Laura said. Thank you, Charity, for doing this, because for small communities, this oftentimes many of these changes just drop through the crack because they don't have necessarily somebody who's on top of it like we are. And that way it gets their laws and their codes and their ordinances behind time. And then they get into it and somebody says, well, didn't that change? And then, you're stuck having to go, oh, and rush to get through the change that you have to make. So I very much applaud this. Yeah, I wish, first of all, there were limits on the number of bills that were submitted in our legislature. I mean, somewhere it's around 1,700 bills every session. It's just insane. And sometimes I wish we didn't have a legislature that was in every other, I wish they were like every other year, like many other states do, because gosh, that would help us. And the thought that our legislature is looking at almost it being almost like a full-time legislature is just even more mind-boggling. So these are the things we get when we have and it's only gotten worse over all the years I've been around the legislature. Yeah. Anyhow, that's enough railing tonight. So with that, let's go on to future agenda items. Charity has quite a list for us. And our August meeting, we had hoped maybe that coming off of the league conference next week, we could have had a break, but it doesn't look like we have to have all of these items, except for the Mountain Gate Trail easements. That's gone. So that's not going to be there. And is there anything else you would like to add to the agenda down the road that's not here that you see? Okay, hearing none, then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There a second? Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember Jones to adjourn the meeting at 7:03 p.m. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you all very much.